Lori Vallow. Just where are her children? And you know what? She could be the most dangerous black widow reincarnated. Now I'm going to explain all that in the case that has more twists and turns than a Afghanistan mountain. Hey, all of this and more on today's Charlie Crimebuster, what some people have called the fastest 30 minutes in crime talk. Well, hello and welcome to Charlie Crimebuster. Charlie Crimebuster here. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. We have listeners all the way from Florida to Washington and all scattered in between. We're glad to have you as one of those listeners. If you have not yet prescribed, feel free to go to our podcast, your Apple podcast, and subscribe to Charlie Crimebuster. There you're going to get a new podcast every Monday. That's when we publish the podcast. Well, today's a doozy for sure. We're going to be talking about Lori Vallow. And she's back in the news, by the way, because just this past Thursday, well, the words Book 'em Daniel, they could well be said in the Hawaii area of Princeville. You see, Lori Vallow, she was arrested, Lori was, in Priceville, Hawaii, by the Kauai Police Department, and she was charged with 2 counts of felony desertion of a child, as well as misdemeanor charges of resisting and obstructing an officer, solicitation of a crime, and contempt. Now, she is currently being held on a $5 million bond, pending extradition to Idaho. Well, but there's much, much more to this case. And your crime-busting host here, I'm going to be your guide. I'm going to do my best to try to help you gain some clarity through the extremely twisting case of Lori Vallow. We're going to guide you through all the smoke and mirrors, and we're going to let you be the judge of where the fire is. For where there is smoke, there is certainly fire, and folks, there's enough fire in this case, well, to keep all the armchair detectives right there on the edge of their chairs. We're going to get to this case in just a moment, but first we have another courageous citizen story to share with you. An Arizona trooper trying to help a motorist in a rollover crash was shot in an ambush-style attack by a random suspect, who was then fatally shot by a Good Samaritan driving by. The suspect had shot the trooper at least once in the chest-shoulder area, and he had fought the trooper to the ground. A passerby, or courageous citizen, he saw the fight unfolding. He stopped to render aid to the trooper who had asked for his help. However, this suspect ignored the Good Samaritan's orders to stop attacking the trooper. That's when the passerby, the good, courageous citizen, he went to his car, he grabbed a gun, and he fatally shot the suspect. That's what ABC 15 reported. Now, our courageous citizen then went to the trooper's car. He got on the radio and he called, officer down, send air support. And this trooper's life, well, it was saved by a courageous citizen with a gun. In fact, Arizona Colonel Frank Milstead said these words to that citizen. He said, "Thank you, because I don't know if my trooper would be alive today without your assistance." So hats off to another courageous citizen. We try to recognize courageous citizens on this podcast. But our feature story today is that of Lori Vallow, and this case is about 2 missing children, Tylee and JJ. Now, I mentioned she just also might be the most dangerous reincarnated black widow alive today. I say reincarnated because this actually comes to us from her own relatives and her late husband, number 4. You see, the mother of 2 missing Idaho children, allegedly she believes that she is the reincarnation of God. That's what family members say. And according to court documents that was obtained by Fox 13, well, the children's father, Charles Vallow, he wanted to divorce Lori Vallow because of her beliefs. He explained his concerns, well, back last year in a court filing. He said that she had recently become infatuated at times, obsessive about near-death experiences, and spiritual visions. Now, Charles Vallow, he wrote this in a filing last January. He said, quote, "Mother has told father, Charles Vallow, that she is sealed," which means eternally married, "to the ancient Book of Mormon prophet, And now get this, that she has lived numerous lives on numerous planets prior to this current life. Now, Charles Vallow's allegations in the filing also said that Mother informed Father that she was a god assigned to carry out the work of the 144,000 at Christ's second coming in July of 2020. And now get this, that if Father got in her way of her mission, she would murder him. Now, Charles Vallow's sister, Kay Woodcock, she tells Fox 13 that the family has long struggled with Lori's beliefs. And for her to say that she's a translated being and that she's reincarnated, well, she says that's just scary. That's what she told the station. But first, and by the way, before husband number 4, who was afraid for his life, and it appears now rightly so, well, there was another husband who died. And while it was reported a natural death, well, other circumstances that now have come to light, well, it may want us all to rethink that natural death. But first, let's see how we got here today. We're going to take a look at the timeline, and we're going to go back to March 9 in 1990. You see, that was when Chad Daybell and Tammy Douglas married there in Utah. Now, if you're new to the case, you may want to ask why Chad Daybell and Tammy Douglas are listed in the timeline. Well, you see, Chad, he is the current husband of Lori right now. That's her husband right now. And Tammy, Chad's wife, well, she died in what is now considered suspicious circumstances, which we'll get to later. So, in 1990, Chad Daybell and Tammy Douglas marry in Utah. In 1992, Lori, who was then Lori Cox, she married her high school boyfriend shortly after they graduated from high school. Now, we don't know a whole lot about this first husband. In fact, I couldn't even find his name and the date of the marriage or the date of the divorce. And most of this we're getting from Annie Cushing, who is a sister to Lori's third husband, number 3. Hang on, it gets pretty confusing. And in October 1995, now she'd already divorced her first husband. Now she marries her second husband. Married him in Travis County, Texas. That was William Lagoya. And in 1996, well, the couple, William and Lori, they had a son by the name of Colby, Colby. And in December of 1996, well, then Lori's second husband now files for divorce. And in February, that divorce was finalized again in 1998, February the 25th. So 2001 now, it comes along and Lori marries her third husband. His name is Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr. They go on to have a daughter, Tylee, together. Tylee, who is one of the missing children. Now, the exact date of the marriage, couldn't find that, but Joseph's sister, Annie, again, she continued to confirm that that was the year 2001 that happened. Now, Joseph also, he adopted Colby, who was Lori's son from the previous marriage. And on August the 13th, in 2004, just 3 years after she got married to her third husband, well, the third husband now, he files for divorce. And in 2005, of May, that divorce is finalized. Then we skip on to February 24, and now this is when you really need to put your ears on. Lori then, she finds a guy by the name of Charles Anthony Vallow, and they marry in Las Vegas. Now remember that name, Charles Vallow. That's going to be very important. She made him her fourth husband. Their marriage at that time was considered to be a happy one. In fact, so stable that Kay Vallow Woodcock, Charles' sister, she suggested that they should adopt Charles' grandnephew, who was Joshua Jackson Vallow, known affectionately as JJ, another one of those missing children. So now we have JJ and we have Tylee, who are both missing. Now, Charles and Lori, they finalized the adoption of Charles' nephew, Joshua JJ, and so now he is officially a part of the marriage. And then Charles and Lori, they moved to the Hawaii, down to that island of Kauai, along with JJ and Tylee. That was according to business records filed by the couple. And that's, friend, when it's going to kind of get a little crazy out here. Well, there's our crazy music, and it is a crazy case, but this is time for our crazy crook story. Every week we try to lighten the podcast a little bit with a dumb crook story, or we call it our crazy crook story. And our crazy crook story this time comes from a game warden in Texas, who stopped a pair of men who were fishing without a valid fishing license. Only one of them did not have proper identification. And according to the Houston Chronicle, this man without the ID, he knew that he had an active warrant for his arrest. And so in an effort to deceive law enforcement, well, the officer gave the warden the name of a friend. But as it happens, the man whose name was given to the warden, well, he also had warrants for his arrest. So despite his attempt to dupe the warden, well, the warden found that this man was already had a warrant under the other guy's name, so he took him into custody anyway. And while he was being booked in the jail under the false name, well, the man admitted his lie. And he was booked under his real name with the additional charge of lying to a police officer. So, friend, I guess the moral is if you're going to use a fake name, you better make sure that the fake name isn't wanted on a warrant. Our feature story is about Lori Vallow. And now we've been following the timeline, and now we have Charles and Lori, who are in Hawaii. And they're there this time with JJ and the daughter as well. So we have Tylee and JJ. They are there in Hawaii. And this is when things get a little strange. And it could be what some people call the beginning of the end. Because in 2015, approximately around that time, a friend of Lori tells New York's Fox 5. She says that around this time, it seems like Lori got kind of obsessed with an author by the name of Chad. Remember that guy by the name of Chad Daybell? Well, he had written several books, and we find that he had had a specially success with a fictional series called Standing in Holy Places. So these books she got really obsessed with. In fact, according to this friend, she got so obsessed that she started buying other books and giving those books away to other people. And the friend goes on to say that she must have gotten close to Chad by these books that she was buying. And in June 2015, well, the Daybells, then they purchase a house in Salem. Now, this is back to Chad Daybell. Remember him, the guy who's the author of these books. Well, he gets a house in Salem, and this was after Chad said that he twice heard a voice telling him that he was supposed to move to Rexburg. Now, the town of Rexburg in a nearby area, pay attention to that because that's going to come into play again in the timeline. This was according to Chad's blog. And the Daybells eventually made the move from Springfield, Utah to Salem. Now we get to late 2016 and early 2017. The Vallows, Charles and Lori, they now move from Hawaii back to Arizona. That was according to family members. And at that time, around April the 3rd, 2018, remember Lori's ex-husband, Joseph Ryan? Well, he dies. Now, the death is ruled a heart attack. Joseph's body is cremated. Now, if you are one of the Black Widow consensus in this case, you may want to take another look at this death. I'm just saying. But anyhow, he dies. And in December the 5th, 2018, well, now, Chad and Lori, they kind of hooked up because they're on the same episode of a Preparing the People podcast, a religious podcast, Time to Warrior Up. And there were even more episodes of the two of them together that soon followed. So now the author and his fan are seeing each other. And in February and March of 2019, now get this, Lori suddenly vanishes. She vanishes for 58 days. She leaves her husband and kids. Charles had no idea where she went. That's what one of his sons told Phoenix Fox 10. You and I are already thinking about maybe where she went during those 58 days. Then back to February the 8th. Now, Charles decides he's going to file for a divorce from Lori. And in released documents, Charles cites Lori threatening to murder him, and also that she stole $35,000 from his business account. And she is claiming to be a reincarnated God among his reasons for wanting a divorce. So in February 2019 divorce filing, Charles Vallow described Lori as uninterested in him and Joshua, and said she was uninterested because she had a more important mission to carry out. Lori again claimed she was a god assigned to carry out the work of the 144,000 at Christ's second coming in July of 2020. And as we said before, Charles feared that Lori would try to kill him, and she allegedly told him she had an angel there, now get this, an angel there to help her dispose of the body. Now, shortly after her alleged threats, Charles then took out an order of protection against Lori, again according to court documents. So in March the 6th in 2019, now get this, don't know why, but divorce proceedings are dismissed at Charles' request. He decided that he wanted to try to make the marriage work. That's what Charles' son said in an interview with Fox 10 in Phoenix. Now this is in March of 2019, not too long ago. Now in June 2019, there's another kind of twist to this story. Melanie Bodrix, who was Lori's niece, she unexpectedly demanded a divorce from her husband by the name of Brandon. It was her husband of 11 years. That's what Brandon said in a Facebook post. Now, Brandon says he believes that was due again to Melanie's new religious beliefs. This is Lori's niece. New religious beliefs after following, remember this name well, following the same deal there that Lori was involved in. So in July of 11, 2019, this is where it really gets serious. Charles arrived at Laura's Chandler, Arizona home to pick up JJ. He was going to take him to school. Now, even though it was summertime, JJ is a special needs student. And there at home was Lori, Tylee, JJ, and Lori's brother, Alex Cox. According to the story, an altercation occurred, and then Alex ends up shooting Charles twice in the chest, killing him. Cox, Lori's brother, claimed self-defense, and no charges are filed at that time. Now, according to Charles and Lori's property manager, neighbors there reported a pool party at Lori's house later that day. Now, get this, with loud music and lots of people swimming. This is the very day that her husband was killed in her home. Now, that doesn't make you scratch your head. Think about this. You see, when Charles got there and there was an altercation, then for some reason, Lori took JJ to school. Not Charles, but Lori. And she took him to school in Charles's rental car. Now get this, Charles drives there in the rental car. He's coming to pick up his son. They have an altercation. He's shot. There's two different sides of the story from Lori. She said two different things. One time she said she went to take JJ to school and she didn't know that Charles had been shot. The other time she said that she heard a shot, but she still took him to school. And then another time says she knew he was shot, but she took him to school. But why? Why would she take her son to school, especially in light of the fact that her husband was just killed in her home? See, a lot of unusual things take place here. The question is, who would take their son to school when there's a dead man in their living room? And why would she take the dead man's rental car instead of her own? So many questions about this case. You cannot help ask yourself, maybe her brother Alex, maybe he could be the angel that she mentioned earlier that would help her remove her husband if he got in the way of her mission. And add to this now, reports that she thought at that time that she was the beneficiary to $500,000 as a recipient of life insurance from Charles. You see, she had no way of knowing that he had changed the beneficiary just prior to his death. And while there are no charges at that time, you got it. The authorities now are re-examining that case. And while the ink is not yet dry on those reports, brace yourself for another possible whodunit. Well, back to our timeline, though. In July and August, there's something that happens that's quite unusual. JJ's beloved service dog, Bailey. He's returned to the kennel from where the dog was purchased. She'd even tried to sell the dog, according to other people and Kay Woodcock. JJ's dog, his service dog. See, JJ had problems sleeping at night, and sometimes he would get up and wander around. But when he got the dog, the first night he had the dog, he slept through the night. And so this dog was a calming effect on JJ's life. So why would she return the dog to the kennel? Questions that make you scratch your head. Then on August the 10th, JJ's grandmother, Kay, she had spoke to JJ, the little boy, by way of FaceTime. She said just for about 35 seconds. That was the very last time in August that she had contact with him. And in September of 2019 now, just this past September, Lori, Tylee, and JJ, they moved to Rexburg. Does that sound familiar, Rexburg? That was the same town that Chad had a vision that he ought to move to. Well, I don't know what voice told him to it. Was it a female voice? Well, we really don't know. But the reason for the move remains unclear. Somebody said that she said she was going to attend school. Somebody else said she had a job, and another one said this. Anyway, she ended up moving, and she said that Tylee, it is reported at this time that Tylee, the 17-year-old girl, that she originally planned to stay in Arizona and move in with a friend. But she just decided she did not want to leave JJ. She was very protective of JJ because he was her little brother. That's what a friend said. That could be a fateful decision indeed. Then in September of 2019, JJ is seen at Kennedy Elementary School in Rexburg for the last time. That's what police say. The last confirmed sighting of Tylee is unknown, according to police, but it was around that time as well, September of 2019. Now, it was reported that she did tell, and the principal did confirm this. She said she was taking JJ out of the elementary school to homeschooling. But, as I said, this was the last time that anybody ever saw JJ alive or anywhere again. And then Tylee, her whereabouts is unknown from that point on, too. Now, in October, just after September of 2019, this past October, she signed a contract with a Self-Storage Plus, one of those storage places in Rexburg. She rented a storage unit. And surveillance video now, it shows Lori and Cox, remember her brother. They visit the unit a total of about 9 times in October and once in November. And according to the footage that was released by a news agency out there, items that were brought to the storage, well, they include gun casings, children's bicycles, and a variety of items belonging to JJ and Tylee. Other things also point to ominous occurrences in the children's lives. A special medicine that JJ needed, well, that prescription was canceled, never picked up again. JJ was taken out of school. So there's some ominous things going on at this time. Then in October of 2019, the same month that she rented the storage unit, well, now this is interesting. There was a drive-by shooting attempt that was on Brandon. Remember, this was related to Lori's niece, and so there was a drive-by shooting. Now, Brandon didn't see the driver, but the vehicle of the drive-by shooting, it was registered, get this, to the deceased Charles Vallow. Then in October, remember Daybells? Remember Chad Daybell and Tammy, his wife? Chad, who appears having a personal relationship with Lori at this time, even though he was married. Well, in October, a man was wearing a ski mask, and he appeared in Daybell's driveway in Salem as Tammy was unloading groceries from her car. He pointed what she believed to be a paintball gun at her, and he pulls the trigger several times, but the weapon doesn't appear to be loaded. She several times asked the man what he was doing, but he never spoke. Tammy yelled for Chad, and the man ran away. Now, Tammy reported the incident to the sheriff's office, and they said that they thought it was likely a prank. But the very next day, there was an account, one of the children's account, that showed a payment to her brother, Colby Ryan, accompanied by the message, "We love you." And then there was another payment on October the 16th. Then jumped to October 19, 2019. Tammy, Chad's wife, well, get this. Family members find Tammy dead in her home at the age of 49. And according to the Rexburg Police Department news release, the death was ruled due to natural causes. Tammy had seemed healthy when her father, Ron Douglas, he had seen her about a couple of weeks earlier. He told Fox 13 of Salt Lake City that she looked good. Douglas did say that a grief-stricken Chad called him after Tammy died, saying that she had gone to bed the night before with a terrible cough and never woke up. Think about it. A cough, and she dies. Now, if that doesn't get you thinking, think with me about this. 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, my friend, Chad and Lori, they get married. And 2 weeks prior to her death, well, Lori's computer shows search for bride dresses and wedding stuff. 2 weeks before Tammy's death. Searching for bride stuff. And 2 weeks after her death, they marry Chad and Lori. Put this also in the mix. Now, if you want to add something to it, throw this on for size. It is reported that Chad increased his wealth with $500,000 from a life insurance claim. Well, they bury Tammy on October the 22nd. Then on October the 25th, a friend of Tylee's from Arizona, she received a text from Tylee saying, "Hi, I miss you guys, love you." That text was a response to a text that the friend had sent on October the 19th, saying she missed Tylee, been thinking about her. Now, the friend did confirm this text exchange, but she had doubts. She said Tylee was the one who wrote the response because she didn't think she did. She said she always spelled out the words for the most part, but she wouldn't do that otherwise. Plus, she would have texted more if I reached out. So the friend says, just didn't sound like Tylee at all. She thinks somebody else sent that text. Then in November 2019, well, Lori and Chad, they had told other people that Tylee had died in 2017. Chad had told another person that Lori had no minor children. Then approximately around November the 2nd, they were married. And some people say it took place closer to the 15th. And November the 26th, the police, well, now they go to Lori and Chad's residence up in Pioneer Road in Rexburg to conduct a welfare check on JJ. That was at the request of the grandmother. She told the police that the children are in Arizona with relatives. But then the police contacted those relatives who said they had not seen the children. And on the 27th, well, police then returned to the home of Lori and Chad with a search warrant. Only guess what? Lori and Chad are not there. They've abruptly vacated the residence. And on November the 29th, Alex Cox, well, her brother who was there, when Charles was killed, well, he got married. But on December the 11th, Cox dies. They say of natural causes, but now they're beginning to think maybe that's not true as well. That was in December that he died in Gilbert, Arizona. He was married in November. He died in December. Now, So a lot of unusual things taking place, and that brings us up to where we started this whole thing from. On just this last week, she was arrested and then went to trial. And now she's been held on a $5 million bond, pending extradition to Idaho. Well, folks, there you have it. That's the timeline. You say, well, what do you think? What do I think? I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong, but sadly, I don't think we're going to find JJ, and I don't think we're going to find Tylee alive. My gut tells me that they're probably dead. And it's sad. So let's you and I hope together that the search warrants that were served, and there were search warrants served at several residences. The police now are right on the hunt. They have her locked up. Maybe somebody somewhere will say something, but let's hope that we can find the children. It would be wonderful if they were found alive and doing well. Some people say, well, maybe they're in a bunker. You know, these survivalist type people, they have bunkers. Maybe they'll come out from a bunker somewhere. Well, that would be great if that happened, wouldn't it? It would be wonderful. But friend, my gut tells me that this is a sad, sad case. And who knows how many people who have been killed as a result of this lady and being involved with this lady. Well, there we have it. There is the case of Lori Vallow. And if there's lessons to learn from this case, it's this. When you find yourself around people and people are dying all around you, or you find yourself around people who do strange things, it might be time for you to take a look at what's going on around you. Be careful who you hook up with, because they may be the last people you hook up with. Well, this is Charlie Crimebuster. Until this time next time, saying to you, be alert, stay safe, be vigilant. And by the way, if you do have any information on this case, any information at all that can help us find these precious children, please contact the police department. Until then, do be safe, be vigilant, for the life you save, well, it may very well be your own.